हाँ हाँ हाँ
To be here.
Oh man, it's great to see you. So, bro, what is it? How are you finding these first few games in NA? Is there anything you're kind of seeing? Anything standing out to you so far?
I'm seeing low ground consistency. I mean, y'all just mentioned it. Edgy and Duke taking over. I mean, the same exact solo play style coming in from Duke that we've seen at the Invitational as well as Grand Royale. And then
Yep.
Edgy coming through with that low ground positioning. Beautiful.
Yeah, of course, we do have Duke and Edgy in first place now. But if you yourself had to make a prediction, who do you think is going to take the whole thing?
Listen, they just took the Victor Royale. I'm going Acorn Cold.
Okay.
Dang, Vivid, that took my question out of my mouth. I love your insight, but here, give me this. What, if you were playing currently, what is a tactic that you feel is very vital to these teams?
I'm going straight for that Tracker's Armory. Now, that's been coming in massively, not only on EU, but also today on NA. High ground utilizing that pistol has been insane, as well as I saw a little bit of a play there from Acorn, taking the flare gun and shooting it down below, doing 60 damage. Insane.
So good. I'm telling y'all at home, if y'all don't know about Lash, y'all need to go follow this man right now.
Facts.
Lash, where can they find you?
Hey, at Caster Lash on every single platform. And as you notice in the beginning of the name, Caster, you'll see everything that you see and like on this stage, and you'll be able to get all that content.
Level in a lot of ways, so make sure you guys take a second, stop by, check them out. Only handful on this first day. I feel like we've watched like 1,000 games, but it's only been a handful. Do we need to do anything different, or just ready to run this back?
You know, Bugha and Threads, they've got some of those dead side rotations down. More of that from them. They're doing good.
I just want to see more gameplay. Let's run it, Zeke.
You know what? Let's run it then, right now. Game number 4 starts. This is the FNCS.
With 3 games done and 3 left to go, we are halfway throughout the days of games, but only 25% of the way done throughout the competition, Monster. What have you noticed so far from some of our competitors?
I mean, what we're seeing is Kanata and Agers really putting up the conversation today. Contested teams can do well, and of course, the comeback story for Acorn and Cold. So far, it is now beginning to develop for them. Finally, they're finding their bearings. It was looking a little rocky, and usually the Caster's Curse takes place a little late into the show, right? The late running, and then all of a sudden you get knocked over, but Acorn and Cold almost got caught slipping, but they're back in it. But let's take a look here. It's game 4 time. We're in the back half of it. These are what we start to call the champion rounds, right? We're in the late half.
Yep, we already saw one time before already, the 50-50 going out. Bryce, it does look like they're going to win it yet again. They get that Twin Mag SMG, take down Paper, and now they're on the hunt. They know Shadow is nearby. They want to be able to kind of take this team out together. They don't want to have to worry about anybody sneaking around and possibly putting an end to their game.
That's right. And now this is a 2-day competition here, so of course, what happens now can also happen tomorrow. You have to make your adjustments. You have to figure out how you can fight your way through. Bryson Chubbs.
Uh-oh.
This was a big fight, but this is huge.
Yeah, this is big for Duke and Edgy to keep their consistency up. You see them at 210 points, just 5 points away from first place. They're able to get one elimination. Diego's trying to fight back, but it's big boy Duke yet again. 2 eliminations for Dignitas. Everybody there that is in that house, kind of landing it up together, are probably cheering every single time anybody gets elimination on the Dig team.
Hey, man, shout out to Dignitas. Definitely put in the money to snipe up some of the best on the space here, by far, have the strongest roster available on the NA region currently. Let's just go ahead and continue to get caught up, though. This game's really starting to pick up. We're already at 82 out of 100 for game 4. Sprite and Giants finally get to swing things around. They drop Kanata and Agers, and just like that, momentum gained, momentum lost. Sprite and Giants finally find themselves on the winning side there. So 3rd place out of the competition that early.
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough because we're kind of talking them up. Kanata and Agers, how well they're performing on the day. And it starts right here at the racetrack. They're able to kind of win their fights against both Sprite and Giants, or unless that one game where Agers was traveling around the world. But it just goes to show that all it takes is one game for you to kind of lose your step. So my question for them as they sit in the lobby for now is, how mentally tough are they?
It's very clear that Kanata and Agers can absolutely win an FNCS. It's very, very clear. Unfortunately, this time around, they have their problems and troubles cut out for them. Bugha threats, that problem is not the same. They have a completely different issue. It's the fact that the zone landed on top of them. This will start to adjust things for them, but now you'll have less teams rotating in their vicinity. So playing this one out, I find that can be a little bit tougher for those players, especially when it pulls this far south. But we'll see if Storm Surge becomes an issue for them this game. For Rituals and TK, here's the team that has no trouble taking any fights. Very decent, and most of the times we've seen them kind of on the 50-50 side. They win some, they lose some, but right now they're just looking for the ambush.
Yeah, so far, the trend over towards Naughty Nets hasn't necessarily been put it all on the line for a 50-50. Most of the time, these guys are disengaging, grabbing their loot on the respective sides of Naughty Nets and going their separate ways. Over towards the south, you already see Larson and User slowly but surely rotating on out, kind of leaving everything else for both Ritual and TK. And they're leaving a good amount of loot because that is one of the hot drops. There's a lot of heals to be grabbed over still on Naughty Nets.
Absolutely. Jumping with Acorn and Cold, who climb their way right back out of the gutters here. Now picking themselves into that top 5 conversation. Acorn with the excellent play in game 3. The little plays to go ahead and deny an elimination to Kanata, so he doesn't increase the chance at him having more heals than, of course, his teammate Cold. But what we've seen so far from them really has been an uptrend, an uptick for Acorn and Cold. Exactly what we expect. Muzz and Degen, a surprising game 1 victory, still meaning to maintain their position so far, kind of in the conversation here inside that top 10.
Do you think it's interesting that they're kind of conceding the vault game after game to Death and Tahi? Do you think they're going to change that up at any point throughout the weekend?
I think the thing is, after they pick up that first win, they realize, and they probably gave themselves the utmost confidence, we do not need the Volt to win. It is not worth that much to us. And when you start to do that, you can see confidence adjust everything. And they're still inside the top 10 without it. So I don't see them really changing that too much. Now, do they plant some ambushes? Do they try to capitalize on some early elims? That's a potential.
Yep, definitely something that we're kind of looking out for here throughout the day. Batman, Bugha, and Bacon. And that's going to be like a huge switch up. We always talk about the surprise contested, getting contested, what a team can do overall. If you're planning to be contested and that being a main part of your Storm Surge, a team like Batman, Bugha, and Bacon, they're probably off to a slow start simply because of that. They hadn't planned too much to be uncontested, so now they're kind of looking on the fly to figure out where are they going to get that Storm Surge from. But with so much action going on, we're going to throw it over to an analyst, Vivid, to break down some of the action that we've seen around the map.
Hey, we're going to be seeing Sprite and Giants for the first time today as they take down Kanata and Agers. With this racetrack split, so many teams like the land here because it does have that double kinetic blade spawn right to the west. But when you're contested at the racetrack, it is so annoying to have one of these teams come over and steal them. And in this case, it's going to be Ocus and usually Bucky as well. Both of the players on this duo have the kinetic blades. I'll have to see if they can do good this game.
Already, you're kind of seeing it, thanks to Vivid, what their plan was. They didn't even land at that trailer park gas station split. They went straight for the kinetic blades, knowing that Kanata and Agers, Sprite and Giants are going to go at it game after game off spawn. So those are just 2 kinetic blades that they're stealing away from anybody at the racetrack.
And that's the wildest part, because it is quite literally the reason you contest the drop. So the irony that you fight for the drop, you don't even get the best loot. Oh man, very, very tough, but we hop in, shows us a little story. Bucky is down, so even with the 3 kinetic blades, there's a story unfolding there. Let's jump in with Zypha and On1, who seem to have a team eyeing them up over at the Frenzy there. It's not looking like it's going to be a simple rotate, as the zone is now on top of them.
I like the feeling right now that I'm getting from Zypha and On1. You can see that they both have an elimination each so far. So when it comes to that early game Storm Surge, it's probably not so much of a worry. And now you combine that with the fact that Zone did pull south, it has an eastern lean, and that's exactly what they're trying to do. They're trying to go ahead and use the storm, ride it towards the south, and hopefully get into the, what some would say, the least congested part of the zone to try to find a safer route towards the end game.
That's right, and it's going to go a little further east here as well. A good chunk of it being inside the water, so what's going to happen now is that we are going to have some heavy congestion happening. I mean, if you've ever rode the subways in NYC, yeah, get ready to be shoulder to shoulder with some folks here, because there's not a lot of room to work with right now. This is what happens. The zone dynamics really do play a part. Larssen, User, taking a fight right now, talking about players hip to hip here.
That's another team, though, trying to rotate in. Great opportunity for some pre-storm surge tags. While MPen and Polarizer is fighting for it. They like to fight and get this early game surge, and a huge shot to be landed on the User. Different angles going through. MPen playing lights out. Polarizer doing a good job. Even though they're not necessarily in the same box, they have the same plan intact. And you can see what they're fighting for. The weapons cache, and they activated it rather quick, so they're going to get so much epic loot and legendary loot to come out of that one.
That's right. The huge upgrades here waiting to happen. Green and blues in the inventory absolutely have a chance. And look at how quickly it turned over. Of course, because of the population that's sitting here, but there it is. Picks up the SMG. Even if it is temporary, it's going to be enough. And he's trying to pull loot back to him. Does not want to give it up just yet to Larssen. The walls, though, are starting to fall here. You can see the longer this goes on, the less likely it is to be worth it. No tags just yet. Polarized playing extremely passive. Excellent exchanges here. Very high-level trades between the two, and it seems like Larssen and company start to realize they need a moment as well to rethink the situation.
I seen him right there just kind of, wouldn't say hesitate, but take a second longer looking at his augments. Makes you wonder if he's saving something in his back pocket for a little bit later on in the game as they finally choose to concede the fight. Already you saw MPen and Polarized snatch the loot on out, so there wasn't much left fighting for. At least not worth risking your game for Larssen and User. Talked about them at Naughty Nets, and they're splitting the drop along with TK and Ritual to give them the best chance off a spawn instead of laying it all on the line like we see some of the other teams do on the day. Foyo and Sphinx, this has kind of been the strategy over towards Mega City. At least every game that they have pulled the zones, they just kind of find one of the highest buildings there and build a tower in the sky, even higher than that, and they kind of look and try to take advantage of any team rotating in the distance.
Not to mention they're sitting on the loot cache as well. Plenty to work with here. And look at Boyo. He's like, hey, I'm just not even going to pop my big shield. I'm willing to take these trades. I'll dig into the minis. I got extra minis down below. That's exactly how the little things these exceptional players will do to go ahead and get ahead of the competition. Small tactics like that, over conserving the minis, but wow. Acorn with the blind tags into the bush. Sense is kicking off, and he finds a few tags. Those are huge, very important, and some extras to follow up. The reaction speed on Acorn right now, you can really see he's got his head down, forehead pressing the monitor right now. He's not playing games. Another one, like he's literally taking advantage.
Dripping on the keyboard, just everything.
Care.
But Acorn is just one of those players, along with Pamstu and Fatch. OGs, long-time duos. There's almost nothing in the game right now that are going to surprise players like this, that have experienced so many different versions of Fortnite, so many different metas, so many different chapters. So it's all about kind of getting that hot streak, gaining that momentum and seeing how far it can carry you, as in the distance, Fatch just takes so much damage, but you can look off into the distance. He has minis down there. He has chug splashes towards the north, shield kegs. He has the shield fish. He has so many heals, so it's almost like he didn't even get tagged up in the first place.
Yeah, literal options here to work with. And this is a team, Pamstu and Fatch, who quite recently nearly experienced the FNCS title championship. They came so close, a literal point difference finals we had just a couple seasons ago before the FNCS championship we had in person. The FNCS, of course, now puts on the line here the global championships, because Why not? So let's make it even better. Let's raise the stakes. It's not just cash. It's, of course, the opportunity to play in person. Over here. Come on over to the EU.
And you're noticing right now, Sprite and Giants going for Rift Island. You might be thinking to yourself, wait, I think I've seen this before. Yeah, you might have. It was game number 1 and game number 3 of Surge Week. They fell short in game number 1. They went back to the drawing board, got those pulse rifles, and eventually qualified with a victory royale to make it here in this lobby. They're hoping with its success off spawn, taking out both Kanata and Agers, combine that with some overclocked pulse rifles, that could be their recipe for success here in this game, and hopefully drop a nice elimination in victory royale to maybe jump up some spots like we see some other teams do on the day.
Absolutely. We've seen some great showings from Jamper so far today. He's got a team, though, in his line of sights here. He is a, you know, again, just a smidge above the Surge. You would think he should be okay. It's not the case here. Everyone gets that warning. Everyone gets that notification. And they all get, essentially, a little check. Where are we in this game? How good have we been able to perform? For Tahi and Deft, they have Acorn and Cold in front of them. Luckily for them, they are above, so, you know, again, not the looming pressure to take the box fight against Cold and Crew. Both teams are very much in the same situation. And this works out for Cold and Acorn in particular. Tahi and Deft finding the tags down there, finding a fight, and then pushing their way out, right? This is literally exactly what Cold and Acorn could have hoped for.
I like Cold right now, the way he's just looking at Death and Tahi moments ago. It was like a lion in the safari, just hunting down his prey. Just kind of hunched down, ready to strike. It's 261 above. Sometimes it's not being above. You find what you think is an advantage.
Oh.
You go for it. It costs you everything. As Death goes down, that's going to be hard to come back from because he had 4 legendary slurp juices. He had the mythic Havoc pump, and now he's leaving it all on the line to Tahi to try to handle it. Luckily for him, Nounzy and ZZ in the distance, putting some pressure on both Knifer and Bylaw, which is kind of using it as a distraction for him to try to stay alive as long as he can. But just on the outskirts, there's another team boxed up, one more singular player after that. There's so many teams congested, and the zone is even right here right now.
Yeah, the crazy part is he had all that, but didn't have the material. It all makes sense now why they were so thirsty to jump down here, try to take the fight, and even less now as Tahi is by himself there. Knifer and Byla still sitting in the storm here. The clock is ticking as a Chug barrel clock's over. They have plenty to work with, of course, 2 legendary slurp juices and plenty more, but so does Tahi. Okay, so he can actually entertain this waiting game. Is it worth it? Maybe not. You can see Cold and Acorn, I think, are already gone as the map starts to develop here. The zone's gonna pop far east once again, playing that coastal side here. And there it is. So Tahi wants to pick up the card. He wants to see if he can make some kind of miracle run and get Death back in the game. Probably gonna be pretty tough to do so, but hey, he gets to live to see another day.
In theory, it definitely is possible. He has more than enough heals to last a long time in the zone and hopefully get him back, but only time will tell if that comes to fruition. As we jump on board Cooper and Miro, 315 above the damage threshold. Had some moments of brilliance go down, also some hiccups along the way. Luckily for them. And so many other teams in this game. It's 12 games throughout 2 days, 6 today, 6 tomorrow. This is going to be game number 4. So we're already past that halfway point. The Dragon and Liege, they're trying to hunt down and surprise attack with Epic Whale and Reet. They quickly Kinetic Blade away, and Dragon's just trying to stay on their heels.
Here's a team that's done so well these mid-game fights. They have Epic Whale, Insight, and Reet. Epic Whale and Reet have not had the greatest mid-games by any means. Struggling with Surge. The fact that they're even getting to this far into the rounds is some of their later performances. And again, they have a team that has been just on the prowl, truly closing out these battles. It's one thing to fight a great team. It's another thing to fight a team that's playing good on the day, but Epic Whale and Reet won't give up. Not without fighting here. They fight back. Great tags there. And now they have a chance.
You can see why Dragon and Liege are playing so aggressive. They're down on Storm Surge, and that's the thing. A lot of these games, they have been down, and this is how they're picking themselves back up. You can already see it. First Doc's going to go through back-to-back for King Reet himself. 2 eliminations, probably one of the best controller players in North America right now. And you see, he's getting so much more heals. He's getting all his loot. This could be that pick-me-up and the momentum shift that we're looking for of a team like Epic Whale and Reet.
Massive, and they could have used the refresh as well. All the extra materials. Let's go ahead and see this rotate. Looks pretty good. Things should start to settle here shortly.
Seeing N10 polarized. Yet again, kind of back where they started. It's Larssen and User yet again. But this time they finish that fight and take back the loot that they left behind earlier on in the game. But from one consistent team to another, Duke and Edgy trying to hold on that top spot on the leaderboard, just outside of the zone. But luckily for them, they don't got much to travel. The biggest worry for them and some of the other teams in the lobby is the environment they're going to have to go through the zone. You're going to go down the mountain, across the river, up Naughty Nets. There's so many different terrains that you have to watch out for. As Onwa got his back against the wall, that's going to be a trade. Zypher goes down, but at least he gets Chris for his efforts. Now it's just him and Yuz looking at each other through the wall in a 1v1.
The frustration that's going to start setting in, it's going to feel like you're on a long line at the theme park for your favorite ride. It's going to take you quite some time. Yuz is going to fall right there, and in the zone, On1 finds himself the Siphon, the med miss, and everything else he needs to stay alive for a little bit longer. Bila and Knifer is going to be the crew watching this all go down, and they have such loadouts that they are not worried or pressured at all. They, in fact, get On1 served up because of the Storm's damage, as it does start to do much more damage. Now, we are currently in zone 7. This starts to do 5 tick, and you can see how much health it's costing him while he's offsetting it with the big heals there from the legendary slurp. So really is extremely difficult, and the zone pulls far west and south here to where teams are not at. So much tougher rotate for some.
Yeah, notice they're shooting the flare gun at the ground because of the train right now. It will catch fire and do some damage if it's kind of positioned right. You see it on the other side as they become a focus of the lobby. And for Knifer and Bila, this is a huge moment. With ODM no longer at their drop spot, they're forced to adapt, and with both of them having kinetic blades, there's no excuses for the rest of this game.
That's right. There are no excuses for the rest of the day either. You're really starting to run low on games here. We are in the back half, game 4 of North America. The first ever merging of the East and West servers, combining all of the players into one player pool now as they get to compete against one another. We have multiple reigning FNCS champions now under the same hub here. Acorn and Cold being, of course, the most talked about on the day here, and putting up the performances as well.
Oof.
They're backing up.
Man, this is making it look absolutely easy, taking down team after team, dropping shield after shield. The interesting thing, though, you kind of notice only 343 above the damage threshold. Some of these players that they're taking out didn't necessarily have full shield, didn't necessarily have full HP, which is why they're trying to keep things rolling for themselves as they continue to collect that Storm Surge. And that augment, once again, Mythic Munitions. You see the Mythic Tactical Pistol. That's where a lot of the teams late in this game are picking up the damage and are finding their eliminations.
It really is an excellent point. They are just cleaning up the scraps here, and they're getting by just fine. It's not like they're struggling at the moment. Right above them, you have, of course, Bacon just eyeing things out, but the zone's going to be the highest priority here as it pulls very far. In fact, there's no one who was there quite early. Everyone just used their early rotates to get in front. Those are, of course, those kinetic blades coming into place here. Let's see it. We get to zoom out for a second here. Jump on over to those teams. It's Bugha, it's Threats.
You kind of already see it. Not only is it far, like you said, it's up and down the different elevations that these teams might have to expend more mats than they would typically want to in a position like this. While some, like Bugha and Threats, they're going to be able to save a lot of the resources since they don't have far to travel to try to get in the zone. As they continue to look back and gate teams out, 800 above the damage threshold. For the rest of this game, in theory, Storm Surge is not going to be a worry.
That's right. If you read the zone early, you obviously realized and recognized we have to get to this big mountain. We have to set up quick. And that's what Bugha and Threats do perfectly fine. And this is why they're such decorated duos, right? They're just that good. The experience really starting to shine through here. But for Duke and Edgy, they say, hey, let's take a different strategy. We're going to come in late. We're going to play this low ground. And now they're down here looking for any kind of refresher to put themselves in the mix. The zone could potentially fly off the edge as well, so the terrain is going to get very intense here. Sphinx and Pollo really flying under the radar so far, staying consistent, finding their eliminations, making their way into the endgame. We could have just a surprise runner as we start to close out the day if they keep this up.
Yeah, it's a team that has a play style that maybe not it's the most flashy, it may not be the most exciting, but they're getting the job done on a consistent basis. They're one of the teams that qualified for all of our weekly finals,
Right.
and that's what got them into the grand finals and skipping Surge Week overall. So it's going to be a big moment for them as they close the day out, as Acorn and Cold trying to make up for lost time. It's almost like they didn't go down early in game number 1, and that's a scary sight. Even though they didn't get very, very many points, they made up for that time, and you got to imagine what they're going to do now that they're on fire.
It's really what happens when you start to shape up the meta in a way that you have such a crazy mobility item like the Kinetic Blade in play here. It's so accessible, you can get from point A to point B. It allows you to either be aggressive or be passive, get to a point of position. Just play for the placements here. Duke and Edgy, of course, just want to continue to stay alive, take it slow, and earn their way on up to the top, but they are now below the surge, so that whole conversation about slowing it down, not for them, not right now. They really need to look around and find a fight. They find visuals right above them. Sounds like there's a battle going on up there, but they don't quite find anything with the tags they put down. But Viola, completely different story. Already knock in hand, now eyeing up the high ground. They're giving Bugha and Threats a run for their money. They're making it difficult.
Oh, but everything comes crashing down for a moment to the high ground they're trying to take. Vanishes right before our very eyes. They're continuously trying to fight, but Hyla goes down. That's Threats who's fighting back tooth and nail. Backed up Knifer, and that's how they were able to separate it and make for an easy elimination. You gotta imagine now that Bugha and Threats, if they're able to hold the high ground, they took down the player with the Mythic Overclock Pulse Rifles. Now it's theirs to claim, and if they have the high ground, that's a ton of pressure they could put on the lobby.
Well, it's crazy. It's gotten broken down again. No one is allowing players to get situated or settled here in Game 4. It is a complete battle. They are literally kinetic blading their way through those builds consistently over and over. We don't have Kings of Height just yet, but we do have teams in trouble. Duke and Edgy are one of the few here. They get to the front side of the zone. They are just playing excellent right now as far as their rotates go.
Yeah, they're doing it through many different ways as well. High ground, low ground, staying ahead of the zone. Duke and Edgy are just playing so consistent, but I talked about what he picked up. He has the high ground, and now we're seeing what you can do when all that loot is coming to fruition. The pressure is going to be so hard for some of these teams to recover. That's why the name of the game at this stage is stay away from ultimate low ground.
That's right. Cold and Acorn are down here, though. Poor Elims in trouble. No builds to work with, and the heals are starting to run thin, but I do see a Flint knock, so there's plenty of plays to be made here. Let's watch Cold get through this will build. They're on the tarp now. They're eyeing up these players here, and look at this. They're working together. The double pickaxe. Edgy is there on the other side of the wall. Can they get the conversion? Of course they can. And there's a couple builds, but they're used up pretty quickly. And another little crevice to sleep through. And now it's going to come down to the reaction.
Yeah, these are big points that they're picking up while they're in absolute shambles. Not much to work with, but at least Acorn gives him something. 8 builds, anything to defend yourself. But you know Cold, one of the most skilled players as an individual. Something is better than nothing as the pressure from above continues to be poured down. They find another elimination and a huge siphon that I don't know if they can actually pick it up. They're going to have to sacrifice some HP, and that's Cold. He goes back to the storm to try to find it, but in comes Poyo, in comes Sphinx, down goes Acorn. It's all up to Cold. He gets dropped. Skittles as well. Sphinx and Poyo late in the game are on a terror.
This is exactly why we talked them out. They have just been so consistent, keeping a low profile, making their way to endgame, and now they're here to make a name for themselves on the NA America region here. Let's see what North America's got as Bugha comes down. He's going to go ahead and throw himself into the fight. Trashy sticks behind to stay for the heal, but Bugha jumps in and finds one, and now he's taken out. Did they go too soon? We'll find out. Poyo, Sphinx have so much time, 20 seconds on the clock here to make a move. They could win this.
Yeah, the Shadow Tracker pistol could be big, especially if anybody's trying to kinetic blade to the outside of zone. That mark for a few seconds gonna let him know where we're at. Baka takes some tag. His position is gonna be revealed, but Threats almost smooth towards the high ground, getting tagged out. He has all the heals for his team, which is why we saw Bugha drop down low.
No way!
Baka. Down goes Baka. Sphinx yet again. He picks up his 4th elimination. The med miss is huge. Look at that pile of loot he just found.
This is not your typical heal off. This is one that you had to absolutely fight for. Sphinx puts it all on the line, steps into the zone, gets the siphon. Is it going to be enough? He has to survive for a little bit longer, but no, Threats finds a heal when it matters most, and he does survive in the end. If there's going to be a heal off, I want it to play out just like that.
Yeah, there it goes. And we were kind of talking backstage, kind of questioning a little bit, is Threats that guy? guy? Is Bugha that guy? We talk about the chat that's going on around this team. Can they take that top spot? Because it's been all about Cold and Acorn. Well, guess what? The question has been answered. The Kings have arrived.
Well, we've seen the simulations. We know what can happen when you put such exceptional, decorated players together. And just like that, Threats and Bugha do enough to seal the deal and get the win. That was an exceptional and incredible game for not only Dignitas Bugha, but Man City's Threats.
Yeah, and you saw some teams go down early, Kanata and Aegis. You saw some teams perform well above standards, including Bugha and Threats in that victory royale in the 4th game. So leaderboard, once again, must be tossed turned upside down. So I'm going to go throw it over Zeke and our analyst one more time to let us know where everybody